So, our topic is going to be delusion and how to remove that delusion. What I have been saying in all these sessions, I received an email from another person not belonging to this session. I want to repeat it. I want to just read it out without mentioning his or her name. It's a worth pointing. He or she, I don't want to, but I have a reaction, especially on my beloved husband. My mind can't accept his behavior sometimes. You see, we should talk about it. But now then what the person writes, I am trying. Glad that I can see those reactions. So I have to do something with that. And the most important part that person has written, I'm not asking you for advice on or any special practice. I hear all the ways how to fix my mind during your talks. Just wanted to admit that I have a reaction and I am very upset about it. That is the message of the entire talk session of East and West. You are listening with awareness and attention, and gradually you recognize your reaction. And once you recognize your reaction, the talk also gives you the solution. So that reaction can dissolve by just listening. So their impressions remains. How to remove those impressions? By practice. So the two part. One is that we awaken to, oh, I have been reacting to my husband and I did not know that. Now analyze this email. My mind can't accept his behavior. Sometimes. I am trying. This is the way we become a seeker. Glad that I can see those reactions. Glad I can see those reactions. Normally we don't say, see those reactions. No, my parents are crazy, my husband is crazy, my wife is crazy, everyone is crazy, except me. That is the greatest delusion. Everyone is crazy in the world. So what the person writes, I'm not asking you for advice or any special practice. I hear all the ways how to fix my mind during your talks. And you see the humility? Just wanted to admit that I have a reaction and I'm very upset about it. Do you see the entire language? The beauty of this, beauty of the changing nature of the mind. That is how our mind changes. So you do nothing, you're listening, you understand it, and you recognize your reaction. That very recognition of a reaction is the recognition of a delusion. And the very recognition means that you have a cognitive ability. You have recognized it. And once you recognize it, you don't want to live with that reaction. There is a natural tendency of the mind. No, we always want to get away from the pain, from the reaction. Look at it. So the recognition of the delusion is very important. And if we don't recognize the delusion, then we continue. We continue to complain and blame and react and fight. The life is going to be hell. So delusion is defined as something defined as ignorance about impermanent nature of things, clinging to false securities, lacking introspective awareness, getting trapped in belief that fail to match the reality. I have to see the reality. Here's the reality, and here it is not. And the mind says, okay, let us drop it. This leads to repeatedly chasing temporary sources of happiness, only to experience dissatisfaction when they inevitably change. Think of my friends. We need to think and contemplate. So, this master has clearly defined that. Do I have a sense of foolishness? Now, you can convert this person's email into a foolishness. No, I've been reacting. Why have I been reacting? Because he is responsible. He gives me that reaction. Outer situation, outer person, relationship, event is responsible for my suffering. That is the greatest foolishness in our life. Are you getting it? I am getting it and still I react. What to say? What to say? What to say? Cognition. Eastern psychology have a very high level of cognitive ability. So that is explained by the foolishness, or you can say foolishness or thoughtlessness. Thoughtlessness does not mean that you don't have a thought. You are overwhelmed with the thought of others, of a situation, of an event, and that is what the impulsive living is. That is what the habitual living is. I have to ask myself again, am I a fool? Why I'm criticizing others? And why I'm getting worried? Mindlessly scrolling. Sometimes, we mindlessly scroll the way we scroll our phone, we scroll our mind also. This person, this situation, that situation. That is the first. Don't forget this. I have to recognize it. Second, because of this foolishness, I have a scattered mind, isolated mind. Scattered mind is isolated mind. Scattered mind, isolated mind results into attachment or aversion. Attachment and aversion. Now, attachment and aversion means that my mind is nagging about some person or event or a situation. When that event took place last year, I'm still remembering. What a great memory we have. Huh? What a great memory. Huh? We should participate in some memory competition. We should throw it. It belongs to the foolishness. But if you don't throw it, the fourth factor, the emotional dependence. What is emotional dependence? I seek a security from relation, from people, from friends, from money. And if they don't agree with me, that causes a sense of emotional dependence plus disturbance. And because I'm constantly seeking an emotional dependence, it results into the fifth factor, that is selfishness. Selfishness of oneself and others, egoism, or you can say. And ultimately, the sixth factor is the intellectual paralysis. Now I'm not able to think in a right way. That is what the intellectual paralysis is. What is right way? Let me find out the solution. Instead of constantly overwhelmed with those thoughts. Look at this person who sent the email. I'm not asking you for the help. I know what is the best way to understand this Eastern wisdom, that you are listening to the teacher and gradually you recognize where is the problem, where is the delusion. You recognize you have a cognitive ability, and that is what our master says, so that I should recognize my false assumption. False assumption. No, the seventh factor is the one happens when you have the intellectual paralysis, and then what happens? Now I want another desire to be satisfied. So my mind is constantly changing, jumping from one desire to the other. So these are the seven factors. And these seven factors are common to every human being. We need not to understand more than that. If you remember those seven factors, oh, which factor is dominating me, dictating my life, you will see that you can easily get rid of that delusion. You can easily get rid of your anxiety, your depression, your duality, dual nature of your mind, the inner conflicts, the very sensitivity. So, what? Just remember the thoughtlessness, or you can say foolishness, scattered mind, attachment, aversion, emotional dependence, selfishness, intellectual paralysis, and constant changing nature of the mind. My master used to say, O mind, be at peace, this will also pass. And this became a meditation for me. O mind, be at peace, peace is my essential nature, this will pass. What will pass? All the seven factors. All the seven factors are just a matter of delusion. What happens to you? You have that cognition and you are free. One of the highest way. Every teacher teaches the same thing, but provided their expression, their rich experience helps them. Another way to deal with it, equanimity. I have to think of the equanimity. I have to contemplate and reflect on the equanimity. So when I think and contemplate and reflect on the equanimity, I recognize my delusion. So the other person's delusion is taken very lightly. So the first thing, that cognitive ability to recognize my false assumption, the wrong notions in my life. And the moment you recognize these false assumptions and the wrong notions in my life, then what is the way? The master says the path of the Shreyas. The Sanskrit word is Shreyas. What is Shreyas? Shreyas, that I have to think what is right and good, not only for me but for everyone. I discussed about it last year, I think. Last year, about the Mississippi River. You know, every river has two flows. And there was a reverse flow, and thousands of houses were destroyed. So mind has also two flows. One flow, what I like, what is pleasant to me. And that causes all the delusion in seven factors. What I like and what is pleasant to me. I have to constantly remind myself. I have not to follow what I like, what is pleasant to me. That is the meaning of recognizing the false assumption in my life. Sometimes it is very painful. Because what I like and what is pleasant to me, I want to leave it. So what I have to do, what is right and good, I have to follow. That is what, again, you go back to this person's email. The person says that I am not seeking your advice. I know that I recognize the reactions is taking place in my mind. So the person has a cognitive ability that I recognize my reaction due to a particular person, a relationship, a situation outside. That is the delusion. And it is because what I like and what is pleasant to me is not happening. How simple it is. So, first thing I have been saying, I have to challenge my false assumption and the wrong notions in my life. But it is not enough. So then the word is used, Satsang, the ninth verse, I have repeated, I think, hundreds of times. Let us see in a different perspective, Satsang. Satsang, Sat means company with the truth, company with what is right and good. And that results, so constant listening and learning It involves constant listening and learning, contemplation and reflection, plus the practice. So when you are doing it, it should result, it must result into a sense of non-attachment. Everything, outer situation, people, relationship, worldly affairs. I lost money, I gained money. You are able to maintain that sense of equanimity. Calmness. Calmness is more important than any factor of delusion. So that brings a sense of non-attachment. And if you continue the journey, I hope this person will enter into a state of dispassion. And once you enter into a dispassion, let your husband and wife react. Then what? He or she, they are harming themselves. I'm not affected by it. So that dispassion results into a steadiness of the mind, and the steadiness of the mind, if you continue to maintain that state, it results into awakening and realization. That is summary. He summarized the entire journey of the Eastern wisdom. Satasangatve nisasangatvam. Eighth factor. The ninth factor is, ninth verse means satsang, which involves a lot of factors. Listening and learning. After that, you contemplate and reflect. Because this person contemplated and reflected. The person said, no, you don't give me any advice or don't give me the special practice. I know that I'm going to continue to listen, and that will help me. You are already providing. So your mind is focused now not on the delusion, but on the method how to get rid of the delusion. Think. I'm not saying it's all philosophical. Everything is so practical in our life. Eastern wisdom is so much practical, pragmatic approach. Satsang, listening and learning, these principles, non-attachment, dispassion, steadiness, and awakening to the mind. This is the sequence. A sense of non-attachment creates a space in my mind. In that space, I can see. That is why this person has written that I see the reaction in my mind in relationship to my husband. I'm not asking your help. Don't give me any special practice. Don't you see? Don't you see that there is a higher level of awareness in that person? That is the beauty of this journey of Eastern wisdom. Some people get it very fast, and others, it may take time. Depending on your past impression, depending on your impulsive nature, depending on your conditioning that you have since your birth. So that very space now has separated the I with the rest of the seven factors. That is where the non-attachment takes birth in our mind. And now you have the same situation, you have the same relationship, but now you don't react. You are able to maintain that state of the calmness. It is possible. It's pragmatic. And that is going to bring the inner transformation in our life. Satasangatve nisasangatvam. So satsang results into non-attachment. Non-attachment results into dispassion. Dispassion results into a natural steadiness of the mind. My mind need not to wander anywhere. Why? It is totally focused on what is right and good. As a teacher, as a mentor, as a guide, my mind is totally focused on what is right and good in this 1 hour of the session. That is now finished. So it's a natural steadiness of the mind. My mind need not to wander. And it happens when there is no delusion. There is no delusion. Thing. More verses are coming and they will blow our mind the way he has written. Even you can understand through the modern way of, if I say, what exactly is the learning objective of these sessions, Mondays and Thursdays sessions. I should recognize, first objective is I should recognize the delusion. How I should recognize those delusions? By the 7 factors we had just explained. So what are those factors? Oh, they are the false assumption. So intellectually and mentally I have to recognize, is it a false assumption? You make me crazy. Is it a false assumption or real? Simple. Simple. Or you can say Biden is crazy. No. What does it mean? No. I have to recognize that is first learning objective, and the second learning objective, then I have to get rid of this delusion. I have to live in freedom and peace. But without understanding the root cause of the delusion, out of these 7 factors, I cannot recognize whether it's a false assumption or not. Just like a lesson plan, we create a lesson plan for the kids, for the school. So what is the context? What is the context here? I can explain it in a different way, but you can say the our ego obscures our natural state of wholeness. All the 7 factors, somewhere there is an element of ego. I insist. So that causes the cleansiness towards the temporary pleasures, false assumptions about life. So overall, a sense of discontent in my life is there. So that is what the context is. Why I'm unhappy, why I'm dissatisfied, why I wake up in the morning and I'm frustrated. Somewhere the ego is obscuring. I have to get rid of. So when ego is obscuring the natural state of the mind, then I have to follow. These first 7 factors are my dear ones. I will pick up anyone. My thought, my speech, and my expression will follow that flow. My master used to say that it is the presence of the delusion that provides the clue to awakening. If the delusion is not there, then I don't know what is awakening. If there is a darkness, then it gives me a clue to lightness. So don't start undermining yourself as a human being. Recognize that. Master is paying more attention. Cognitive ability. I have recognized that I have one of these 7 factors, or maybe, let me find out why they are. And you contemplate and reflect, and you get rid of it. Again, see, in a different way, when you pick up the first factor, the foolishness, the fools live without looking within. Buddha says. Fools always look outside. They want satisfaction, all short-term pleasure, blame and complain game, and everything starts. Scattered mind loses the focus and clarity. Think. Attachment. In separateness lies the world's great misery. When I'm attached to someone, I separate myself from the entire world. I lose the right perspective of the entire situation. That is what the attachment and aversion is. Again, Buddha said in one of his texts. Aristotle says the happiness depends upon ourselves. I have been saying happiness is our essential nature. Selfishness. How can you define the selfishness? Selfishness, the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. Think of it. I'm just referring one of the great biochemists. Perhaps he was in Michigan or university. He has written 500 books. He lived in US. Spoke. You know Spoke? No. He is not the Spoke. He has not written 500 books. No, Spoke is a fictional character in the Star Trek. So he made a statement, the needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. That brings the sense of egoness. So who has written the 500 books, his name is Isaac Asimov. He is a Russian immigrant. He has written 500 books. Do you know, Dennis? He lived in US. American writer and a professor of biochemistry. 500 books. Your assumptions are your windows on the world. A beautiful saying from him. Your assumptions are your windows on the world. So I have to examine my assumption to see the world. If I live with a false assumption, it is going to create a lot of problems. This Isaac Asimov is basically a biochemistry professor. I heard that much I remember, and he is one of the great fictional writers. 500 books. And then we come to the changing desire. I pick up changing desire as the seventh factor. Changing, it is not impermanence that makes us suffer. It is not the changing nature that makes me suffer. Then what makes me suffer? What makes us suffer is wanting things to be permanent when they are not. What makes me suffer, what dilutes me, is wanting things to be permanent when they are not. Life, permanent, body, not. In all these 7 factors, I love to repeat again what my master used to say. Just sit down with eyes closed or open. Start looking at all the thoughts that is passing your mind. And remember my master's phrase, O mind, be at peace, this will also pass. You need not to practice meditation, you will enter into the state of meditation. We'll pick up the 10th verse in the next session. Close your eyes. Eyes are closed. Are you ready for practice of meditation? The moment your mind says yes, like the person who sent an email, and yes means Now body is comfortable, eyes are closed gently, you are in the state of sensation, comfort and steadiness naturally. I need not to explain what it means by being comfortable and being carefree. So we save a lot of time. In the practice, Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, Sarvesham swastir bhavatu. May there be happiness for all. Can you contemplate and reflect? I need not to say anything. You pick up any explanation I gave, more than 50 different explanations, and you remember that. Pick up any explanation. It will help you to recognize the false assumption, and it will also help you to recognize here I changed the track of the mind. Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu. May there be peace for all. May there be peace for all. With false assumption, with delusion, we break ourselves into pieces. And here we are talking of the peace. Pick up any explanation you remember, you liked, you loved. That is enough. Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu. May there be completeness in all. If I feel the sense of completeness in me, how come? I don't see the world through false assumption. Sense of completeness. I don't see the nature, the permanent nature of anything in the world. I recognize that everything is impermanent, changing. I don't impose the permanency on anything outside. Again, I'm saying it's all a matter of cognitive ability. It's a matter of awareness. It's a matter of recognition. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. There should be an auspiciousness in our life, in the life of everyone. Auspiciousness. Now, when there is no delusion, what is left is auspiciousness. That is what a great and deeper, clear understanding. But we continue because we have a lot of impurities in the mind. If one claims my mind is pure, then you will live alone, fully contented. There is nothing to be done in the world. So look inside the forehead. So we continue to purify the mind. Look inside the forehead in the space. Body is already in the state of steadiness. And looking into the space and start breathing, start saying Om Shanti with the pause in that space, and then start breathing. Quick and short breath into the rib cage. Continue. So you see that continuity, persistent, consistent, I can use the different words, it all means the same thing here, that you recognize any resistance in the mind and you endure it. Otherwise, you continue. You also check the flow of the breath in through both the nostrils should be equal. Breathing continues, Om Shanti continues, steadiness in the body continues. Remember this, steadiness in the body also continues. And every point is very important. Flow of the breath, you recognize. Your continuity, your consistency, and at the same time, a recognition, the Om Shanti continues, will help a great deal. It will purify the mind very fast. Sometime your mind like to stop it. Do not stop. Recognize that you have stopped and continue the breathing. Do not stop in the middle. Endure it. That is how you get rid of the resistance. The mind always like to stop. It say, no, it's enough, it is too much. And then it creates a false assumption. And stop the breathing, stop the mantra, So when you both stop, it means steadiness in the body continues and you are maintaining your awareness. Where on the flow of the breath. So we have to give some job to the mind. So we just want to keep our awareness of the breath and the flow of the breath. And if any flow is less, pay attention there. Sooner or later, you can bring your mind back to the state of harmony, to the state of higher cognition during the day, anytime, by bringing your awareness on the flow of the breath. And that would be a great day. You will recognize, what I have spoken just now is not good. Let me change it. I will say sorry, but I have spoken. And I'm waiting for this person to return to that state. And now looking again inside the forehead in the space, Shanti continues. Steadiness continues and start breathing into the belly, little longer, and the hissing breath. Little longer breath, but this time your attention is on the belly, expansion of the belly and the contraction of the belly, you remember. And it's but natural. You inhale and the belly is like a balloon. It expands. The belly is like a balloon. When you exhale, it squeezes. So you are aware of the entire scenario, aware of the steadiness in the body, Om Shanti, in inflation and deflation of the belly, or expansion and contraction, little longer breath. So you are enduring it. Why we endure it? We want to say to the mind that, mind, you have to change. Long in the air breath into the belly. You are also aware of the flow of the breath. You may find the flow of the breath is equal to both the nostrils. It is a wonderful state. You can experience if the flow of the breath is equal. Continue. longer, better it is. Mind says no, and you say yes with Om Shanti, with steadiness in the body, and the mind is not going anywhere. It has to follow you. And stop it. So when you stop, means you stop the belly breathing, allow the breath to be normal, pay attention to the flow of the breath. You have variety of experiences in and around the head into the whole body. It may be hot in the coolness, in the stillness, in the numbness, but our attention is on the flow of the breath. If both the flow is equal, just continue to remain aware of the flow of the breath. If one flow is less, pay attention there, and you will discover that within few seconds, the flow of both the breath becomes equal. It is a wonderful state. You have to live into that state during the day also. Just picking up the flow of the breath without any fast or other kind of a breathing, just for 5 minutes, couple of times during the day. And now looking again inside the forehead in the space, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. And start breathing the third breath both into the belly and the rib cage. If flow of both the breath is equal, you will find a big challenge to longer exhalation because both the nostrils are open and there will be a fast expulsion of the breath. That's a good indication. Long, deep breathing in the state of the stillness in the body. Om Shanti continues and long, deep and hissing breath, Om Shanti, dropping inside the forehead in the space, in the state of stillness in the body, and other factors you are already aware. A cognition of the flow of the breath, And now stop this long breath. Allow the breath to be normal. Pay attention to the flow of the breath. You see that everyone is physically totally steady, and if you're aware of the flow of the breath and the flow of the breath is equal, obviously you will find a natural state of steadiness. But that natural state of the steadiness is coming through the breathing. Why? Breathing, Om Shanti, stillness in the body, and there are 5 or 6 more factors. When I'll explain that, you will recognize, oh, these are also the factors. Now, there is no factor is responsible for the flow of the breath at a given time. Mind is naturally steady. Mind has a freedom. And there the awakening takes place. That is where we are heading to, slowly. And now leave this 16 segments of 4 fingers, Om Shanti, drop it. What is very important? I used to tell mind's eye, mind's tongue, mind's ear, mind's touch, Om Shanti. That is how I was explaining. What that means. You shift your attention from any object, person, relationship of name and the form to nameless and the formless inside. That is the way you are dropping Om Shanti. You're not physically verifying, but in the mind. And that is why it is helping you a lot to recognize something that is formless, that is nameless. Why? The greatest delusion, ego, drops. Oh, that is why you are giving this step. No, there are other factors also. And now, looking inside the heart and the cave of your heart, the equilateral triangle pointing upward, moving the mind. On the side of the triangle, dropping Om Shanti in a clockwise and anti-clockwise, discovering the sync. And the moment you discover this sync, mental chanting Om, pushing the mind deep inside the cave of your heart, as if you're moving the mind with that chanting is so deep and so long, it pushes the mind deep inside. Mind seemingly stops and you say Shanti, you are absorbed, you are almost in the state of doing nothing. Anytime the mind causes some disturbances, and now you have already taken over the mind. You're working on the mind. So it's not a big deal. Sinking again, moving the mind inside, and done. How beautiful. Everyone is like a statue, motionless state. That is what we need to achieve at the outer level and inner level. It's a self-absorption, conscious self-absorption. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both of arms, place it on your eyes. Open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences. Bring the hands down. We'll share our experiences. If you have any question, you can ask. How are you, Vaibhav?
Yes, sir. So I was absorbed, was calm, totally blank.
Totally blank. Very good. Yes, and you were aware of that blankness. That is wonderful. Beautiful. How are you, David?
Thank you, sir. Very good. The lesson in the space and the breathing expanded the space between the consciousness and the mind. And so for the rest of the meditation, that space just got bigger and bigger and more peaceful.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Yes, you are indicating something which I have to talk in detail. So there is a physical space. physical space. How far you are from me, house in the room. And then there is a mental space. And then there is a space with the consciousness. So when we discover that space with the consciousness, we happen to go into the higher state. So everything has three levels: the physical, the mental, and so-called the spiritual. Consciousness is without name in the form. It's a beautiful way to understand. How are you, Jerry?
I'm good, thank you, sir. I love the lesson. The meditation for me was deep and calm peace. The lesson so practical for our daily living.
Yeah.
So, and just those spaces summed it up, because if the physical space is confronted with some kind of physical contact, right? That the mental spiritual, or the spiritual space is inspired by that intellect to know what to do. It doesn't go from a story. It knows how to set a boundary and not question it. And then the mental space too, we can have a verbal encounter that is really aggressive.
Yeah.
And our intellect that's inspired by our consciousness, knows what to do, knows how to handle that in a manner that's loving and peaceful, and it's that auspicious moment for us.
It's a beautiful way. You have extended my explanation when I was talking about the space. What David says, you are perfectly right. When you have that three levels, you recognize these three levels of the spaces. You have a physical altercation, and you create a mental space, and that helps you to withdraw the body, the physical, and you create a healthy atmosphere. And if there is a conflict in the mind or the intellect, so to say, then you have a spiritual space to resolve that factor. Beautiful. Thank you, Jerry. That's a good explanation. How are you, Christina?
Thank you. That meditation practice was deep and absorbed. I felt like I was floating. I could relate to the email shared in terms of feeling a lot of guilt, and then that becomes part of ego holding on to that. So this talk about space has been helpful to see how to apply to that as well.
Yes, you raised a very important point. Ego and the guilt are very much related. Guilt and the ego, they both are intimately related. So, out of the ego, I did something, and then I feel the sense of guilt. But they both are the part of the delusion. Therefore, I will talk about it. In Gita, we talk about that every object, every person, everything has three levels: physical level, mental level, and so-called spiritual level, just for the sake of understanding. Whether it's the water, whether it's the space, whether it's the air, whether it's an ant, whether it's a human being. So when I recognize the spiritual level of everything in the universe, I start communicating. That is another way to talk about the awakening. We will talk about it later. How are you, Brandy?
Morning, I'm good. I don't really know how to explain. I applied the idea in the lesson about suffering coming from, I guess you didn't use the word clinging, I don't think, but like clinging to things that are changing. And it feels kind of obvious, but probably for the first time in my meditation, I did like the standing across the road from a long time ago used to talk about. And just as my thoughts came, I was like, no, like you're not hanging on to this, right? You're not clinging.
Yeah.
And then so I was able to stay in the space.
Yeah.
Longer, like more calmly.
Beautiful. That's really good. You keep on hanging on the space. When I keep on hanging on the spiritual space, which is formless, which is nameless, it is nothing but the consciousness. Beautiful. That's another way to beautiful, It helps all of us. So, how are you, Dennis?
Thank you, common peace. I recognize the importance of recognition of what happens in our mind, because this is the turning point when we start recognizing, because otherwise we just act without knowing what we do.
Yes.
And this what helps us progress, and this what helps us change our mind.
Yeah.
So in this sense, this lesson was confirming my understanding of how this process of evolution should take place.
Beautiful.
As far as the practice, at the end, it was like continuous Om chanted by the mind, and it was like superimposed on the thoughts that were sometimes emerging in the mind, and the thoughts were dissolving in the song.
Beautiful. And you see, Dennis, and to you all, when we say recognizing, the modern psychology use cognitive ability, behavior, cognitive, happiness, CBT. Might be, Christina might be using. So, these specialized branches of the science they use different words, but ultimately, whether you say recognition or a cognition, it means the same thing. It means the same thing. So I interchanged it, but it's a very important point. When I recognize or I become aware, that's another word to use. So I have to become aware of the delusion only when I see it separate from me. That is why these 7 factors. If I'm clinging to it, attached to it, I will not recognize. That is what you all shared in a different way. And it takes a fraction of a second to change. Beautiful. Thank you. I'm so happy that you all are evolving. So we have to go to, 2 people are left. We have to go to Terry. What you are thinking?
I was halfway. I was between the space and the thought.
Okay.
And recognizing.
Yeah.
Recognizing the feeling.
Good.
Feeling. That there was not. I had some feelings of fear because there were helicopters outside. I could hear the physical feeling of fear and thoughts, and I kept falling over to the right. But that was what. But then there was under and behind that was this space.
Yeah.
Or in front of it, actually.
Beautiful in a way, what she is pointing out, and that is another expansion. I'm so happy that you all are understanding it clearly. So what happens in the spiritual space, if I say so, just I'm using the spiritual word, it is all the consciousness. Consciousness is a formless and nameless it is all pervading. So what happens? It drops all the illusion pertaining to the mind and pertaining to the physical level. So we see the sense of oneness everywhere. And that is what, Terry, you have to go there. So that is a deeper explanation in Gita. So when we take up the Gita, we will talk about it. So we have one more most important guide, Sam.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste, sir.
I had a very similar experience to Terry, where the Survey Sham mantra put me in a state of almost like a stupor. It made me so emotional, very, very emotional, but feeling of settledness. Also to the point where the breathing was kind of preventing me from falling over. But I felt very settled in that space regardless of what was happening to my body. I was still floating, and I felt safe.
Beautiful. Your mind was totally focused on the practice and understanding of the talk today. That is beautiful. That is how we have to follow and pick up this session. We need not to talk of something outside. That is what happened. I'm repeating again what the email is so that you keep in your mind. But I have a reaction, especially on my beloved. My mind can't accept. Now you are already clear, she is a woman. My mind can't accept his behavior sometimes. I am trying. Glad. What a beautiful. I love those experiences, when you have, it's a moment of recognition of what you said. Glad that I can see those reactions. Glad. I am glad to see those reactions. Do you see? So I have to do something with that. Now see that I have to do, I'm responsible. But at the same time, what she writes, I'm not asking you for advice or any special practice. I hear all the ways how to fix my mind during your lectures. Just wanted to admit, you are dropping your ego and the guilt also. Just wanted to admit that I have reactions and I am very upset about it. That is the way we become a seeker at the higher level. And once we are a seeker at the higher level, there is no end to our evolution. That is all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.